Hi guys, in this video I'll be recapping part 2 of the Happily Ever After tell-all. This video will cover more of Sean's interview with the Florida Collective, as well as everyone's second night at the mansion. In my next video, I'll cover the remainder of the tell-all part 2, in which Sean will focus on Cara and Guillermo, and Brandon and Julia. Please look for that video to come out in another day or so. If you're interested in recaps of reality shows like 90 Day Fiancé and Love is Blind, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other videos and playlists. We pick up where we left off with the Florida Collective in full fighting mode. Andre is telling Jovi they should go outside and duke it out. Libby says, "Yara, do you want to effing weigh in on this? You sit there and stir the pot and say nothing." Yara shakes her head. Sean says to Yara and Jovi, "Who do you think takes the blame for the conflict between Libby and Lauren?" Jovi says there's a lot of wrong on everyone's part. He says to Libby and Andre, "Y'all went behind Lauren's back and exposed info." Libby gets a huge attitude. "Y'all," she says. "Y'all? You sure about the y'all part?" Jovi says, "Okay, then let's say Andre did it." Sean asks Libby, "Why do you think that Yara and Jovi are stirring the pot?" Libby says when she saw them at Lake Placid, how they're playing a double game. She's like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Meanwhile, Brandon is still falling asleep. Yara says to Libby, "How can you say I play a double game? You put me in the middle when you said I said that Lauren said Andre is a horrible person." She tells Libby, "I never said that. You lied about that." Libby argues she didn't lie about that and suggests maybe Jovi said it. Andre asks who called him a horrible person. Jovi and Yara argue they didn't say this. Lauren chimes in, "Nobody said it." Libby says, "Then why did you apologize for it?" They show Darcy shaking her head at the drama, so you know this is some petty stuff when Darcy feels this way. Lauren says she's sorry she called Andre a dick, and that he's butthurt over it. Andre brings up Lauren's recent apologies. Lauren says, "Yes, I apologized countless times," and asks how many more times can she apologize, and she's clearly getting heated. Libby's like, "Whoa." Personally, I don't blame Lauren for getting so upset because they're gaslighting her like crazy. Libby tells Lauren they connected on the fact that they're not fake and don't like plastic surgery, fillers, and Botox. Then, of course, they pan to a shot of Darcy. Libby explains that when Lauren started talking about the tummy tuck, Botox, etc., she was confused. Lauren says she never wanted that stuff, but after 3 kids, she had an issue where her stomach wasn't sitting normally and decided on surgery for that reason. She says she's openly shared this with the world and explained it to Libby. Andre says to them, "You both connected on the wrong thing." Lauren says, "No, we connected on the fact that we bitched about our husbands to each other and that we dislike getting hate on social media." Libby says also that our husbands can be similar with their Eastern European descent. At this, Andre shakes his head and says, "Similar? No." Libby turns to him with a venomous look. Alexi agrees they're not similar. Libby clarifies it's an alpha male thing. She says back then, she and Lauren would send each other jokes about how they're doing nothing. Lauren agrees and says it's like how everyone thinks a housewife is sitting around and doing nothing, and they're running around doing a million chores around the house. Jasmine chimes in and says, "Isn't it therapeutic to have a friend to complain about your husband to?" She says she does this with Julia all the time, and she tells the sleepy Brandon he better not look at her text with Julia. Everyone's sort of laughing, but Andre breaks the jolly mood and says to Lauren, "What happened to squashing?" Lauren's like, "Come again?" Andre explains that at Lake Placid, Lauren kept saying she was sorry, so what happened to that? Lauren says she and Libby talked it out and made amends on that trip, but that before the end of the night at the bar, Jovi had told her how Libby told Yara that Lauren was talking bad about Yara. She explains that she just found out in that moment, and that's why she stormed off. Libby looks annoyed per usual. Sean says, "Elizabeth, you told Yara that Lauren made fun of her clothes." Libby seemingly gaslights Sean here and says, "Made fun of her clothes? No, I don't think I said that." She clarifies that she said Lauren talks about Yara's clothes, but not that she made fun of her. Sean comes through and says, "We actually have that footage." In the clip from the Lake Placid trip, Libby tells Yara that Lauren says Miami went to her head and made comments about what she wears. Also in the clip, Libby adds to Yara, "Bitches are fake." Lauren, watching the clip, is smoldering. Sean asks Libby if she stands by those comments. Libby says absolutely, because Lauren did say those things. Lauren says to Libby, "You share a personal conversation, but you say you don't talk about me." Libby says, "Is that not girl code? Should I not warn another girl that a girl is talking trash about them?" At this point, Alexi waves his hand at Libby and Andre and says the two are snakes. Libby continues her rage, saying, "Should I not warn a person who's new to Miami and looking to make genuine friends?" Lauren says, "Well, you don't live in Miami, thank God." Libby scoffs at this, like, ugh. For some reason, they show a reaction shot of Gino, who's gritting his teeth, as he's apparently so shocked at what they're saying. Darcy also seems bowled over by this news. Sean says, Elizabeth, you stand by telling Yara to watch out for Lauren? Libby says, of course, especially now with how she treated this whole situation. Libby explains how things came about, and at this point she mocks Lauren's voice, saying, I don't trust you. She actually does a pretty good impression of Lauren, but it's still mean. She says Lauren couldn't tell her what she did wrong, and that Lauren is a person she can't trust, so she removed herself. Sean says to Libby, so you think Yara shouldn't trust Lauren? Andre says, of course not. Libby talks over him and clarifies, saying she didn't use the word trust. Lauren and Andre tell Libby she just used the word trust just seconds ago. It's clear at this point that Libby is blindsided and can't think of a way out of this misstep. I wish no one had said anything, and that they just let her try to talk her way out of it, because I'm curious if she could have. But Alexei says, makes sense, you're so confused with all your lies. Libby latches onto this chance to distract from her web of lies. She claps with each syllable as she says, you hurt us. We were fine. Kara looks like she's having a stroke. Libby is now screaming. We had an understanding of what was going on, so there would be no hurt feelings. Now the tables have turned and Lauren is the calm one. Lauren says, one more thing she was told was that apparently Libby and Andre told Yara and Jovi that they had to choose between them or Libby and Andre. Andre says, yeah, I told them they have to choose because they're playing a double game. Sean asks Yara if she's friends with Lauren. Yara enthusiastically says yes. Sean asks if she's friends with Libby. Yara is now hesitant and says she's not sure. Libby looks pissed. Sean puts that conversation on hold and says she'll come back to the Florida Collective when Lauren's friend Noga joins them. She then excuses everyone from the stage. In their backstage confessional, Lauren says she's embarrassed she yelled. Alexei says they need to keep their composure. Lauren adds that Libby and Andre really think they did nothing wrong, and how effed up that is. In a backstage conversation between Andre, Libby, Yara, and Jovi, Andre says he and Jovi settled their fight the night before. Jovi suggests Libby and Yara do the same, and stop acting like teenagers. The producers make an announcement that the couples need to get changed and head back to the mansion. In their confessional, Yara says they don't like drama. Jovi says this was more to do with Libby and Andre, and Lauren and Alexei, and he's just trying to be friends with both couples. In his confessional, Matt says he'll be at the mansion tonight. He says since all the bad stuff happened already, he feels pretty confident there'll be less Gino and Jasmine drama. Hi guys, just a reminder to please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks! Several cast members are in a van headed to the house. Georgie says Jasmine is so good at getting in everyone's head. Kara says from the backseat, exactly, hello? Georgie says now he feels bad for Matt. Darcy says, look, he proposed with a string or whatever the F that was, and Jasmine should have said yes, or just move on and co-parent. And I agree with this. Brandon asks Gino how he feels about Natalie and says she's pretty. For some reason, Gino says thank you to this. He says she has a good heart and didn't fight with him. They arrive at the house and Darcy, Georgie, and Gino sit down for dinner. Georgie asks if they want to say a prayer before eating. They all hold hands and Georgie says the prayer. He asks Gino what he's grateful for, and Gino says he's grateful he got through the day and he can move forward. Libby and Andre walk in. Gino says they were talking about what they're grateful for, and Libby gives a look like, ugh, these peasants. Gino says he didn't expect the fight the Florida Collective had after they've been friends for so long. Then he asks Andre if he was being a dick. Did the producers tell Gino to say that? For once, Andre admits the truth and says, probably, and everyone laughs. The rest of the cast shows up and find the cast members who are already there playing beer pong. Lauren and Alexei sit separately. Lauren says she wants to decompress, and Alexei says he doesn't want to spend any more energy on the drama. Later in the kitchen, Jovi's saying he wants to bring a drink and a friend to Lauren and Alexei, and by a friend he means Andre. Libby declines an invitation to join them. Jovi and Andre approach Lauren and Alexei, and Jovi explains the drink and a friend thing. Lauren says, what friend? Andre says, we're not friends. Jovi asks if they can talk normally. He says there's a lot he wanted to discuss at the tell-all today, but he couldn't get a word in. He says they should keep it civilized, and it got too aggressive. Lauren says she did yell and hates that she did, but she won't apologize. Andre says they should reconcile everything before we hear from that lady. Lauren says she has a name, and it's Noga. Just a refresher, in case you don't know, Noga is Lauren's friend that had a huge fight with Andre at Lauren's party several episodes ago. Andre says calling her lady is nice because she's a lady, I think, but he adds there are some things he wants to ask her. Lauren says if issues come up, you have to let Noga talk, and Andre says he will. She tells Andre she never said he was a horrible person. He says there's a big difference between calling someone a horrible person and calling them a dick. Lauren, for the millionth time, explains to Andre that he is a dick. Andre says, yeah, okay, and Alexei smiles at this. Lauren and Alexei ask Andre who mentioned the body shaming first. Andre dodges the question and says it came from text he read. Lauren says she's more pissed at Libby at this point because she won't own it. Just then, Libby walks in and is like, "Are we talking about this again?" Lauren clarifies her question about who started talking about the body shaming text. Andre's become very aggressive since Libby arrived and says to Lauren, "You asked too many questions." He says Lauren should have discussed this at the bar in Lake Placid instead of leaving the situation. Yara tells Alexei that she and Jovi thought he was controlling Lauren because he's always removing her from situations. Lauren explains the situation was escalating, so they removed themselves before it got worse. Yara asks what they're going to do, that they can't avoid each other forever. Libby says she doesn't give a flying F. Andre agrees and says that they should go drink. Lauren's like, "Oh no, are you taking her away from the situation?" Oh, the irony. After Libby and Andre leave, Lauren tells Yara, "I'm still sitting here, and look who left," and says how Andre was talking about how Lauren got up and walked away in Lake Placid. But they're doing the same thing here, and how hypocritical it is. She says she was Libby's last friend. Yara agrees and says they push everyone away, even family. Later, while everyone plays more beer pong and other games, Lauren and Alexei go to bed. Kara, Guillermo, Jasmine, Matt, and Brandon are playing Truth or Dare in Kara's room. Kara dares Brandon to lick a door handle. They're all like, "Lick it, lick it, lick it," and clapping. Then he licks it. And Jasmine is like, "Oh, you're nasty." That is gross, though. Are people not allowed to refuse dares in this game? Then Brandon dares Matt to suck Jasmine's toe. Jasmine explains to Matt the whole feet thing she had with Gino. But I'm curious why Matt wouldn't know details like that at this point. And also because the show is something he can watch back. She takes off her sock. Matt asks if she walked around barefoot and she says no. He does as requested and everyone cheers. Then he goes off to wash his mouth. Jasmine says if only he knew where this foot has been. Okay, Jasmine. In the kitchen, Jovi, Andre, and Gino are hanging out. They ask Gino to call the phone number that Matt said wasn't his since they want to see if Matt will answer. Back in Kara's room, Darcy asks if she can join the fun. For her dare, Kara is asked if she still has feelings for Guillermo. She says she'll always love him since they have a child together. Guillermo says Kara wrote a song, and the main chorus is, "We just need to try." He says he doesn't feel like they tried. Kara says she did try, and she starts to get pretty heated about it. Back with Andre, he received a response from the text he sent to the phone number he thinks might be Matt's. The text says, "Who is this?" Andre types back, "Is this Matt?" Gino says, of course Matt won't answer yes. Back at Truth or Dare, Kara asks Jasmine, "Do you love Matt the same as you love Gino?" Jasmine takes forever to answer, but finally says, with Gino, she didn't love him in a healthy way, but in a passionate way. She says she doesn't want to be that person again, but that she does love Matt. Matt says he knows she doesn't love him like she loves Gino. Jasmine says she likes Matt's companionship, and that Schmeck's with him is the best. Now that I think about it, I'm surprised Kara and Jasmine are hanging out, since in part 1 of the tell-all, after they arrived at the house, Kara was really defending Gino against Jasmine, and was pretty much calling Jasmine a liar to her face. Julia also joins the Truth or Dare party. Jasmine dares Darcy to let Kara lick a nip. Kara says she'll lick in that area, but not on a nip, and that happens. Julia asks Guillermo to do a dance for Kara, where he takes off his shirt and feeds her sandwich to her. Guillermo complies, and this all suddenly looks like Love Island. Back with Andre, he receives another text that says, "I don't know who you are." Libby suggests someone find Matt to see if he's texting. Libby, Yara, and Georgie head upstairs to spy on Matt at the Truth or Dare party. Everyone tells them what they missed. Darcy tells Georgie she's getting more action here than she does with him, and he looks upset. Back downstairs, Andre starts calling Matt's phone, while Libby watches upstairs to see what happens with Matt in the room. But Matt's phone isn't ringing. So in desperation, Libby asks Matt if he was texting someone earlier, and he says no and asks why. Without answering, she and Yara leave. So not suspicious or rude at all the way they handled that. In her confessional, Libby says the operation to catch Matt about his phone number was a bust, that either Matt changed his number or Gino was lying. In his interview, Gino says Matt's phone number was definitely a match at the time he found out about it, so Matt must have changed it, and this clearly makes him guilty. Back downstairs, Georgie says he heard about the Darcy licking thing. Libby explains it was just a game. Georgie's like, oh, it's all fun because it was a game. Back with the Truth or Dare crowd, Kara says, okay, I have a dare. I dare all of you to get out of my room. Everyone looks a little bothered by this remark, so I'm not sure what happened there. I'm assuming it was just a joke Kara made, but the editing made it look weird, like she was suddenly being bitchy. Back downstairs, Jovi asks Georgie when's the last time he and Darcy had schmecks. Georgie doesn't answer, but Jovi says based on what Georgie's told him, it's been about 6 months. Georgie says they're too busy. Gino says, oh come on, you can do a quickie. Darcy comes in and brags about the action she got and demonstrates on Georgie. He's upset and she says it was fun. Andre asks about their schmeck situation. Darcy says to ask Georgie. Georgie says she's always tired and not in the mood. She says stop blaming her and they both have to want it. Gino, who is suddenly the schmecks guru, is like, come on, it only takes 5 to 10 minutes. Darcy says, oh, he's quick, like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and also hints that Georgie's boring in bed. Jovi suggests Darcy and Georgie have a shot of tequila and renew their relationship, and Georgie agrees. He then turns to the crowd and says he's Bulgarian, and they'll all hear her scream tonight. Later in their bedroom, Darcy pulls Georgie down onto her, but he just lays there motionless, and unless the scene is staged, he seems to be asleep. On the way to the tell-all the next day, Kara tells Darcy that after their truth or dare encounter the night before, she could taste Darcy's perfume for an hour. I've seen how much perfume Darcy lathers on from previous episodes, so that's easy to believe. As they're entering the studio, Jasmine says she feels grumpy today and not in a good mood, and you can see Matt mocking her as he holds the door. He must know she'll see this later, so he's bold for this. Julia shows up and hugs Jasmine, who says she has her back. Matt tells Kara and Guillermo he expected everyone to be mean to him, but he says everyone's been nice. Kara says she wanted to not like Matt, but he's so likable. Jasmine and Julia are talking about Matt and how he's getting along with the other cast members. Jasmine says Matt is too charming. She says with Gino she didn't care because he's so bitchy to everyone. Julia says Gino's nice. Jasmine says, no. Kara tells Matt she's seen Jasmine blow up and cry so many times. And Jasmine yells out, it's postpartum! Kara says she was trying to say how nice Jasmine has seemed compared to what she expected, but that Jasmine is proving otherwise. Jasmine says, I'll just be quiet in a corner because I guess I'm too loud. She sees Darcy and Georgie arrive and says it's so nice to see Georgie next to his wife since it's usually Darcy by herself and he's usually next to any other woman. Kara is like, shots fired. I thought this was pretty cruel of Jasmine, knowing how Darcy will use this as ammunition against poor Georgie during their tell-all segment. But it's clear Jasmine is just trying to get back at Georgie for his remark in part 1 of the tell-all, where he simply asked why she hasn't divorced Gino if she doesn't want to be with him. Overall, I think this tell-all is really giving and bringing the drama. Also, I have to say that, as always, Sean Robinson looks amazing and seems to get younger every tell-all. Of all the couples, Libby and Andre appear the least put together. I'm not a fan of Libby's dress at all, and Andre's shirt is tighter than the one Michael was wearing in that tell-all where he served Natalie the divorce papers. Lauren and Alexi both look great, as do Kara and Guillermo and Julie and Brandon. Darcy and Georgie look good, although I'm not a huge fan of Darcy's style, and I wish she'd leave her face alone. Of course, Jasmine is always ready for a tell-all. Matt looks good, and Gino looks like Gino. Also, in recent episodes, it looked like Yara had some work done on her face. When they were in Lake Placid, it looked like the surgery was still settling, but she looks amazing here. Of course, I'm not sure why she's getting work done, since she's still really young. I'm finding that Lauren is so much more likable than Libby when they're in a room together. I want to like Lauren more, but I really disliked how she took Angela's side in the Michael and Angela situation. She was living in the mansion with them, and she saw firsthand how Angela was treating him, so that made no sense to me. Also, I remember that she did talk smack about Yara to Libby once, about how she didn't like how Yara was setting up for her business launch party, so she does talk about people behind their backs. Still, when she's positioned next to Libby, Lauren always seems like a nicer person, and overall, I feel like Libby's bullying her. Of course, this is all my opinion, and these people may all be wonderful in real life, and could just have the worst editing. Anyway, that's it for this half of part 2 of the tell-all. In my next video, I'll cover the remainder of the tell-all part 2, where Sean will focus on Kara and Guillermo and Brandon and Julia. So please look for that video to come out in another day or so. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching.